Sister Wives, season 17, episode 12, Life After Polygamy, just aired this past Sunday. And I think we are all still mulling over some of the questions that were brought up in this episode. For example, what is their financial situation and who is spending all this money? Does anyone care that Janelle doesn't seem to have a place to call her own? Does Kody ever plan to actually build on Coyote Pass? I think we all have some ideas about the answers to these questions. But the truth is, at this point, we can't really super duper know the answers. But what we can know is the stuff that they've told us. And we can reflect on some of the information they've shared in the past. So I thought it would be fun as we continue to think about the financial questions that have been brought up in episode 12. Let's look back at some of the stuff they said in past seasons and in past episodes. And maybe we can start to understand, what does this all mean for the family? And maybe most importantly, what does this mean for Janelle? Okay, the first moment I want to take you to is, I think, season 8, episode 7. Mary has decided that she is going to get a legal divorce from Kody so that Robyn can marry Kody and then they can adopt their kids. In that conversation where she's talking to producers, she's reflecting on the significance of being the legal wife. And this is what she has to say.
I've been married to Kody, and I'm the one who has the legal marriage license. I would be the one who would take care of any issue if Kody were to have a sickness or an accident or die even. I think that we all have that same faith in Robyn.
So Mary is acknowledging that as the legal wife, she is responsible for the assets and really distributing the wealth if anything happens to Kody. That's a big deal. And then she makes a huge assumption, although I think she knows it's a false assumption, that Christine and Janelle have trusted Mary to be in that position. And Mary says that they will also trust Robyn to be in that position. And I don't think that's true. Later in the episode, Mary sits down with Christine, Janelle, and Robyn to share with all of them her plans to divorce Kody. Of course, Robyn already knows this, but anyway, she's there with them. And Mary tells them her plan. Christine, of course, you might remember, gets up, hugs Mary, and I don't think it was genuine, but whatever. She says it's great because they're going to adopt the kids, and she just wants the kids. It's all about the kids. Okay. Janelle is pretty silent. She's silent for most of the scene. And then eventually I think she realizes she does have to say something. And she makes a joke about how she wishes they could have waited until the new year, because I guess now the taxes are going to be complicated. They're going to have a divorce and a marriage within this tax season. And everyone laughs and it's like, oh, Janelle, of course you're worried about the taxes. And it's funny. But then the producers ask her, basically, you made that joke, but for real, how do you feel about this? And this is what she says.
I'm not going to comment on it. That's all I'm going to say. It's about the taxes.
So basically all Janelle says is, I'm not going to say anything else about it. Let's just leave it with the joke I made about the taxes. I don't remember how I felt the first time I watched this episode years ago. I can imagine that I would have felt a little compassion for Robyn. I just trusted her. Oh, I don't know. I just trusted them. That this really was all about the kids. And I can imagine that I felt some compassion for Robyn. But in this moment, with the perspective that we have now, oh, wow, my heart breaks for Janelle. She knew it. She knew that things were going to change from that moment on. So she goes on in the episode and basically says that she was speechless in that moment, but she knew that things were changing. And she was just worried that as things changed, she was going to be left out. And if that's not some premonition or seeing into the future and knowing what's about to happen, wow, Janelle knew things were going to change. And it does seem currently like she is being left out. I just changed my lighting, so hopefully this works. But anyway, the next clip is just a small moment that isn't necessarily financially related, but it's so funny, and it's in the same episode. I just have to include it. This is during the conversation that Janelle is talking to Kody, and Kody is like, oh, I heard you're struggling with this idea of us getting divorced, and I just want to make you feel better. And this is how he attempts to make Janelle feel better about this whole thing.
As long as Mary never behaves any differently, and as long as Robyn never behaves any differently, nothing will change.
As long as you don't behave any differently.
Okay, that was just a funny moment because he cannot take responsibility for anything. It's amazing. I did not notice that the first time, but wow. he is a mess. He's a mess. Anyway, so we're going to keep moving on through this episode. At this point, we are to the point where Robyn is reflecting on her new role as the legal wife and the financial responsibilities that she has to the family now.
I know what this means, that what it could mean, if Kody were to pass. It would mean that I would be responsible to make sure that everybody's taken care of. In plural families where a husband dies and a first wife or the legal wife is responsible for his estate, and I've seen some women abuse that, so I see it as a responsibility, and it's stressful to me. It's very stressful to me.
Now, I am curious, when you hear her say that, what do you think? What do you feel about what she's saying? Personally, I feel like on its own, if you don't watch the whole rest of the show, in that moment, Robyn seems compassionate and understanding, caring even, that this is a responsibility that is a big deal to her, and she worries about it because she's seen it go off in the wrong way, and it seems like she wants to do good in it. The challenge is that we can't watch this without knowing where the family is right now. And so let's skip ahead. This is going to be season 16, I think. And if I'm saying the wrong seasons, I'll put it up on the screen so you can see which season I'm talking about and which episode. In this episode, they're at Coyote Pass and they're talking about how they're going to divide the property. And I bet you remember this scene. This is an interesting one where Robyn starts talking about this idea of inheritance and using the property as a means of inheritance for her children.
Each wife and her children, that is her inheritance. I mean, and I know that we are family, we work together, blah, 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 but it really just keeps it super cut and dry. Okay, so a couple of thoughts from watching that moment, okay? Number one, it reminds me of Kody in season 17, episode 11, was it? Or was it just this past episode? Oh my gosh, there's so many episodes. It was this one, season 17, episode 12, where Kody is trying to convince Janelle to buy Christine's house. And his main argument is that it's easy. It's just going to be easy. Just do it. Just be creative and make it happen. And that was supposed to be a very compelling argument to Janelle. This is the easy financial decision. And it's interesting to see Robyn kind of have that same way of thinking, or that same line of thinking, that let's just do the thing that will be easiest when it comes to the finances for our many children. I think that's just an interesting thing to notice, that they are both talking about, let's just do the easy thing, regardless of if it's the right thing or not. The second thought when seeing this scene is that this is a really big deal. As far as I remember, at this point in the show there, I think it's season 16, no one up to that point has said, this asset is for my kids alone, and then you and your kids can get your own assets. Nobody had ever said that before. And it's so interesting that the same person, Robyn, who just a few seasons before is stressed by the weight of the responsibility. She knows that it is her job to make sure the whole family is taken care of. She's second in command now. That she would make that shift from being so worried and aware of her responsibility to now saying, well, let me make sure that my kids have this inheritance, and then you make sure that your kids have their inheritance. It's just such a big mind shift, a paradigm shift. And Janelle, of course, notices this and comments on it. When we all came together in the very beginning, I believed everything was in common. We did our finances that way. And, in the last few years, there's been a lot of voices brought forward saying, look, there's nothing that legally binds us together, so what happens if we die? It's just been a change in culture, and I don't know how I feel about it. It makes me feel more separate. Okay, so once again, Janelle has pointed out that things are changing, and she's worried that that change is going to basically leave her out by herself. In this season, she talks about feeling separate, and she's right. We see her now in season 17. She is off on her own, trying to argue and just fight her way to, can you please, family, can you please make it a priority to get me a house? So what does this all mean, right? What do we do with all this information? I think the good thing is that all of this has happened in the past. Even season 17, we know, was filmed over a year ago. And so some of these problems have hopefully been solved by now. We know that Janelle does live in Flagstaff. As far as we can tell, she does still live in Flagstaff. We don't know. As far as I know, we don't know if she's bought a house or if she's renting. I think she's renting, but I'm not certain. If you know, then please leave it in the comments. Let us all know. So throughout the conversation in season 17, and especially season 17, episode 12, a lot of people in the audience have been talking about, she needs to have a lawyer. Janelle needs to have a lawyer.
And I think you're on to something if you're saying that, because what is so clear is that nobody has Janelle's best interest in mind. Nobody in that family does. And that's like the tragedy of watching this. In the beginning, that was the whole point. Look at how many people we have to love and to love us. The polygamy is amazing. Don't you wish you were a polygamist? And now we come to this point. Janelle has no one to look out for her. And we're all calling for her to have a lawyer so that at least she would have someone on her side. That is a tragedy. That is a failure of that entire family. What a mess. I hate this for Janelle. I hate this for all of them. They could do better. They should do better. And if they can't, then they should just leave each other alone. Anyway, that's enough for me. What do you think? Please let me know. What do you think about this? Should Janelle have a lawyer? Should she be fighting Kody and Robyn for access to money that we know was hers? Let me know. In the meantime, though, let's plan. We're going to definitely meet here again next week to continue talking about what's going on with Janelle and the rest of them, because they're a mess. And I just hope in the meantime, Christine and Janelle are somewhere living happy, wonderful lives of financial freedom. All right, take care. Bye.